Hi, I'm Craig Bell.
And I'm John Perkins.
John, what is the largest room in the world?
I don't know.
Room for improvement.
Yeah.
Food for the soul, helping you to thrive. 5 minutes to renew your mind. Take 5.
John, I guess there's a thing where they can train fleas. You know, little fleas, the little bugs. I never knew that was such a thing, but flea trainers have observed a predictable and strange habit of training fleas. Fleas are trained by putting them in a cardboard box with a top on it, and the fleas will jump and hit the top of the cardboard box over and over again. And as you watch them jump and hit the lid, something very interesting becomes obvious. The fleas continue to jump, but they're no longer jumping quite as high, so they don't hit the top. Evidently, after, 1,000 headaches, they learn their lesson. But when you take the lid off, the fleas still continue to jump, but they'll never try to jump out of the box because they've hit their head too many times. They condition themselves to a smaller jump because they've hit the lid too many times. A lot of Christians, I'm afraid, have conditioned themselves to small box Christianity.
Yes. Yep.
And the Bible teaches a different concept for us, doesn't it?
Yeah. I think sometimes we limit what we are as Christians, but we limit God. We believe in a God, or we should believe in a God that's able to do all things. We're living in a time that people limits God, what they think that he can do.
Absolutely.
We serve a big God.
Yes, we do. And sometimes we settle for a small relationship with this big God. The Bible teaches us in James chapter 4, verse 8, draw nigh to God, he'll draw nigh to you. Somebody said, do you want a closer walk with God? The person said, yes. Said, then why don't you have it?
Yeah.
It really boils down to us, doesn't
Yeah.
it? If we really wanted that deeper walk with God, man, we'd jump.
Yeah.
If we really wanted to get out of the boat and walk on the water, we'd ask for that. We'd
Yeah.
move towards Christ. All the others sat in the boat and were okay with that.
Yeah.
Peter steps out in the water. A lot of times in Christianity, I think we're afraid to step out closer to God. I don't know if we're afraid that God's going to ask something of us. We got to give something up.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a comfort zone that God's calling us out of. I don't know, but
I remember a preacher told me one time he was going to preach a revival, and he showed up a week early before revival, and he went in there and he asked all the church, he said, can you just do one thing? Do not limit God in this revival. He said, I've never said this to a church before. He said, but God's going to do big things if you do not limit God. He said they had revival went on for over a month. He said, I forget how many people were saved, but he said that people didn't limit God. And I think sometimes we're satisfied with what we have as a Christian. We're satisfied with our Christian life. And I think sometimes God wants us to strive for more.
sadly, we have about as much of God as we want. That's why the church is needing revival, because we've settled for this little bit of God. Show up on Sunday morning, hear a little pep talk sermon, go your way, kind of put God in your back pocket, so to speak. But God's calling us to a richer walk.
Brother Craig in Malachi in chapter number 3, verse number 10, God's challenging him. He said, just see if I don't open up the windows of heaven and pour down a blessing on you so much that you won't even have room to receive the blessing. And I think sometimes we're so happy with the blessings that God has already gave us, and we're just satisfied. And God's saying, just draw nigh to me, and I'll draw nigh to you. I got more blessings for you than you can handle if you just trust and get closer to me.
I remember John Greenleaf Whittier, the poet, said, for all sad words of tongue or pen, the saddest are these, it might have been. And, think about what would be in heaven if we realize what we could have had with a walk with God, the deeper walk we could have taken with God. And God so longed for that deeper walk.
Yes.
And in the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve, he was longing for communion in the garden. And he still does today. There's a popular song, John, that says, life can be filled with what ifs and if onlys as we settle in the valley of regret. And it goes down in the chorus and said, but what if we really believe that God would meet our every need and nothing is impossible with him? What if when we stand before the Maker, instead of hearing, you've been faithful, as we give account of every word and every deed, he says, child, I had so much in store if only you had trusted more. What if we got to heaven and God said, I had a deeper walk for you, and we missed it?